Well, are you looking for a new show to watch?
Clarice. It premiered on CBS a few weeks ago. We talked to Rebecca Breeds earlier this month about the new show, and joining us now is one of her co-stars, Kal Penn. Kal, my co-host Kara is in love with you.
I mean, like in love with your work. Hi, Kal. I loved you on Designated Survivor, too. You're like such the smart guy.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I told Scott, I'm like, I really love people who are smart and loyal, and you are that.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. What a nice way to start my day. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to ask some crazy questions. Kara's going to ask questions about the show. So the first one I want to know is, does Rebecca Breeds go in and out of her accent when she's on set and off set?
Yeah, so it's funny. She's Australian, for folks who don't know. She just slips seamlessly into it when we're shooting, and between takes or between scenes, she speaks in her normal voice. And the reason I think that's so interesting is when you're getting at maybe with your question is some actors mix it up.
Yeah.
Like sometimes if I'm doing an accent, I will try to stay in that accent all day because I don't have the capacity to go in and out. And she can go in and out just flawlessly. She's such an incredible actor.
That's so cool.
Oh, that's amazing. So I love all things Silence of the Lambs, and I read that you do too, but explain to people, where are we picking up this show? What's happening in relation to what we saw in the movie?
Sure. So Clarice, our show, takes place about a year after the movie Silence of the Lambs ends. And Clarice Starling, who's part of this behavioral sciences unit and obviously was part of the whole serial killer story of the movie Silence of the Lambs, joins our FBI division called VICAP. And that's where the show picks up. So none of our characters were part of the movie or the book franchise. Yet we know Clarice Starling, who was in the news constantly in our world. And when she joins our team, there's a little bit of tension because she comes from this behavioral science background that none of us necessarily have had. So how do we solve cases together? How do we help victims? That's kind of the launching point of the show.
All right. Here's another bizarre question. Was your mom a fragrance evaluator, and do you smell good?
So she was a fragrance evaluator. That's probably one of the few wiki entries that's accurate. And I smell okay, I think. I smell okay right now. I'm quarantining up in Toronto, which is something we have to do before we get into production. So look, if we're having silly questions, I put on some cologne just for me, just for self-care.
For you. I do that too.
Why not? Makes you feel good. So in this character, you are an expert in library sciences and you help solve crimes with these bizarre facts that you know. And then I feel like in Designated Survivor, you were also this guy who just knew stuff. Is that just because that's you and it shows up in your characters? Like, what's the deal with playing the smart guy? I just need to know.
That's funny. Yeah, well, I think in Designated Survivor, he was almost an accidental smart guy because in the pilot episode of that, my character is a junior speechwriter. He's just drunk out of his mind in a bathroom stall and says the wrong thing to the guy who just became president. That's how he gets his comeuppance. So I don't know. I don't even know if that's smart or just good luck. In the case of Clarice, it's probably going to be, I would say, halfway through the season before we really find out who Tripathi, my character, is. And that background, I'm curious to discover too, because I think what they were getting at was each of the FBI agents has a different background with how they come to the team. And in my case, I just enjoyed working at a museum. I enjoyed the learning about the history and culture of things. So when we look at victims or perpetrators, I assume that my character is going to kind of want to hear about that person's background or where they grew up or find clues in this jacket that they bought is actually a vintage jacket from their grandfather. And is there a clue there? So it's more of a way into the unexpected solving of cases.
All right, last question, because we're running out of time. Are you good friends with Neil Patrick Harris, and how do I become good friends with you?
And how do we become good friends?
Yes.
Well, look, once we all get our delicious injections and we can have beers together, I feel like that's an easier thing to do. Neil is such a fantastic guy. I first met him when we did the very first Harold and Kumar movie, and we've had the chance to work together, 4 times since I got to do an arc on How I Met Your Mother a few years ago. He and David, what great guys, and what a night. There's nothing that guy can't do. I'm sorry, you opened the door to this.
Exactly.
So I'm just going to share my love for NPH.
Well, thank you. So we just love you. Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And we want to let everyone know that Clarice airs tonight at 10 o'clock right here on Channel 3.
He was great. I love him.
Yeah, bye, Cal.
Bye, Cal.
When we get your injunction, come in person.
Come be with us.